What's up? Welcome back to my channel, or for the first time if you're new, I'm Sylvan, and today I'm going to be reacting to Miyabi's EP, Daybreak. I'm very excited to get into this. I'm excited to see what this gets into. And also just hoping that's a good song. So, let's see what we've got. Feel free to like and subscribe if you enjoy the video, leave a comment on your thoughts, and let's get into this. Okay, tailless.
You'll catch up to mommy soon.
God, they're tying all of this in so well.
Mommy will always be with you.
This is essentially just a follow-up from... oh my god, that eye. Jeez. Growing up and returning. Oh, the eyes everywhere. Coming back to the sword. Ooh, these visuals. God, this song is really interesting. Nine-tailed fox. Wow, these visuals are so good. Okay. Oh. Fuck. Oh, trading places. Oh, fuck. Right. Making the scabbard. Now she comes back when she's resolved what she wants to do. Alright, the gut punches keep coming. So obviously this is directly following from a narrative standpoint from her animated short. We start, before the song has even begun, in the flames and wreckage of her family home, moments after she has wiped out all the ethereals with Tailless. And she's just sitting there in shock as the blade is piercing the ground with energy around it and crystals surrounding it, as just echoing in her mind is her mother's voice. We have that line repeating the wishes of her mother, "I just hope you will have a peaceful childhood," as the visuals show that it will be far from the case. And then the last thing we get from her is, "Mommy will always be with you." And in a sense that seems to be the case, but it's in this moment that she just breaks down crying. And as she does, this eye opens up behind her, and it's just staring down at her. I'm not entirely sure what it specifically represents. I have a few guesses though. I could very much see it being the watchful gaze of the entity within Tailless. Now that she has picked the blade up, it knows of her existence and is watching and waiting for her to pick up the blade again. Another possibility is it's a representation of the rest of her clan looking down at her and expecting too much from her. But I'm not entirely sure. All that I know for a fact is that it is a looming oppressive presence based on what we see here. But from there, we shift to flowers. More specifically, flowers being held by Miyabi as they visit the grave of her mother. And it's here that we begin to get the lyrics of the song. Hiding a soul steeped in sin, leaving a world crumbling from within. I don't necessarily know what the first line is speaking to, but obviously the world crumbling from within is that of New Eridu and the world as a whole due to the hollows, or at least that's the thing that first comes to mind to me. And perhaps what it means by saying leaving a world crumbling from within, perhaps the soul hiding sin that's leaving a world crumbling from within is Miyabi in this time, because she is not taking up the blade and protecting people. She is not being the hero she could be, but I don't know if that's really what they're trying to get at here. But regardless, visually, we have this transition from child Miyabi to closer to present-day Miyabi, still visiting the grave and offering flowers. This is likely a continued pattern for her. We pull out from her to reveal her dad looking at her from a distance. I'm seeking endlessly. As we get a sort of fisheye lens shot around Miyabi, the buildings are curving in around her. Her salvation meant for me, from the depths of the dark abyss. Ever since the death of her mother, Miyabi has felt lost, unsure of what to do, and is emotionally weighed down by the incredibly complex emotions surrounding her mother's death, and probably of her talent with the sword, given that essentially one of her mother's biggest wishes was for her to have a peaceful childhood where she didn't need to take up the blade. And in a way, she's fulfilling that wish, but at the same time, she is probably aware that she has the power and skill and capacity to help people if she does. So she is in this teetering state of grief and guilt and conflict that is all stewing, and she's just seeking salvation from it, but can't find it in the depths of this dark abyss that she finds herself in. Visually, as we have her walking down the street, we have just a big shot of the one reporter in New Eridu looking over a hollow, crying out with a trembling voice, and surrounding her all these screens, showing the news, showing hollows, showing whatever, that then glitch and twist to all be that same eye looking down at her. Everyone is gone from the streets, it is just this eye looking down from all directions. She can't escape it. There's this presence overlooking her, but then it glitches back. And as she looks up at the rainy, cloudy sky, lyrics continue. A soul, once lost, will someday illuminate the boundless night. A once lost soul will someday illuminate the boundless night. This endless night, this period of darkness, this abyss, will be illuminated by someone who was once lost. That is inherently talking about Miyabi in this moment. She sees all this suffering and strife around her, and part of her knows that she can do something about that, but she is choosing not to. Probably in honor of her mother. But though she is lost currently, unsure of what she should do, whether or not she should pick up the blade or continue to try to live a normal life, she will not be lost forever, and once she becomes sure of herself, knows where she's going, she will become that which illuminates this boundless night. We then see the aftermath of chaos wrought by presumably a hollow and ethereals. We see Pubsec helping people as best we can, but there's still fires raging, and she just stares at it in dismay, with this just pained look on her face. A heart, once conflicted, is piercing the starless sky, like daybreak, continuing the theme of the previous line, where the previous line was saying that someday a soul once lost will illuminate the boundless night. This is saying what is happening or what will happen now. It's speaking to the same idea that Miyabi is conflicted and doesn't know what to do and feels lost and is just seeking salvation, but when faced with the horrors of reality and recognizing that she could do something about it, she can't hide from that. And we see this visually here with how, looking at all this destruction in front of her, a small child comes up to her seeking comfort, and she just hugs the child. And it's with this that clearly something in her mind and intense change as she decides to go back to Talus, the blade that was used to kill her mother, with her own hands. She returns to it as it is the way that she will be able to pierce the starless sky. She reaches out to the blade, and its power is unleashed. We see in this black and white, almost ink style, these abstract shapes with eyes integrated into it, which makes me think that all of the eyes from before are that of the presence within Talus, the entity within it, having become aware of Miyabi and now having made contact once more. And we just move through these abstract kaleidoscoping shapes as we then have her falling into the depths of the abyss, sinking deeper into the waters. We get this shot of this fox with many tails, probably a visualization of the full entity within. I do find it rather funny that the imagery we have for this entity is of essentially a nine-tailed fox kitsune type thing, despite being called tailless. But perhaps that is a case of the blade is called tailless, but the entity within is not. I could see that, because if that was the case, I could see the reason it's called tailless is because it severs that connection of power that this many-tailed being has, because if I recall correctly, in a lot of nine-tailed fox kitsune lore, their power is either represented by their tails or comes from their tails. So if that connection to the tails could be severed and it could be made tailless, that would neuter it of its power. And given that tailless seems to almost more be a containment vessel for the sword, I guess that's more the sheath, but still, I could see that maybe. But that's just wild speculation. From the depths of the abyss, she closes her eyes, everything goes dark, and we have this distinct style. We have a fox with just a single tail overlooking these cliffs and mountains as this same eye looms over the sky. And it's here where I think we might be beginning to get visions of the past, perhaps. I could see this being an interpretive representation of the creation of Tailless as a sword, the sealing of this entity into it. Perhaps this is the first wielder of the blade. You have this white-hailed fox Thyron reaching out towards this eye with all these hands coming out of it, symbology that matches that of Tailless. And then a blade being pierced into a massive hand. I can't help but draw the connection to the massive hand that, spoilers if you haven't done it yet, Bringer summons in his boss fight. It's not the same hand, the nails and fingers are all different, but I feel like it's worth calling out that a large hand is something of relevance to look out for, visually speaking, in the game now. So worth calling out. And we see here before it shifts to the next shot that as the blade is piercing its palm and flames come up from the blade, it begins to burn away, the hand burns away. And interestingly enough, there's like this sort of smoke almost coming out from behind this one swords person that are reminiscent of tails. But then we shift over, tons of blades stuck to the ground, that person in the front, same visual, and then we see just this black hole that resembles an ethereal core, and countless fox Thyrans falling into it. Perhaps these are all the wielders of the blade who were consumed by its madness. But before we get to the next bit, I want to look at the lyrics. I'm seeking endlessly for salvation meant for me, like a drowning man. An alteration of the previous line. No longer is it searching for salvation in the abyss, but rather I am searching for salvation, and it is making me like that of someone who's dying, someone who is falling into the depths of nothingness and drowning, clutching at a straw, desperately clutching out for life, salvation, hope, anything. No matter how small the chance is, I am desperately reaching out for that salvation. Hands trembling as they reach for the cause. And we see Miyabi fall into the darkness. But then she opens her eyes, and at that swirling point she fell in, a light shines, and it takes the form of her mother. And she reaches out as countless shadow hands reach up to try to pull her back in, but they aren't able to stop her from reaching her mother. And during this time, we're getting that repeated line that a soul once lost will illuminate the night. And it's here where her mother switches their positions, taking her daughter's place to be consumed by this darkness, enabling Miyabi to have a chance. Once again, whether or not this is literally something that happened or just metaphorical, it is mirroring the sacrifice that she made in the animated short. She's letting herself be destroyed for the hopes that her daughter can see a better future. And as Miyabi gets pulled back up into the light, away from the abyss, she reaches back down, desperate to reach her mother, but she can't. She's being pulled back too fast. And then we show her sleeping on a bed, the little foxfire spirit or whatever it is above her. Perhaps it is that eye that is looking down on her, the manifestation of the blade's spirit observing her. It wasn't able to consume her like it was many other wielders, so now it is merely observing her and waiting. But it fades away for now as she wakes up and her father approaches approaches with the blade, now having constructed the sheath for it, to house its power and protect her from it. And now, having taken up the blade, she returns to the grave of her mother with her father, having made the resolution to go out and fight and be that hero who protects people. It may not necessarily be what her mother wanted for her, but it in its own way is fulfilling her wishes. And we just hold there as it fades out. God, that shit fucks me up. I am a big fan of this. It really slots in for that last piece of her backstory that we didn't really have yet. Because with this, we have the animated short giving us her early life, leading up to her first contact with Tailless and the death of her mother. We have her EP here to show us from that terrible tragedy up until she takes up Tailless once more, resolved to fight against evil. And then we have her teaser showing us how she became a Void Hunter. And then finally we had her demo showing what her daily life is like. And just between these 4 promotional videos, we have the essentially complete life of Miyabi up until now. Obviously abbreviated, but that's something we don't get very often for characters. We don't really get their full backstory and life and motivations shown to us this way, and I am incredibly appreciative that we did, because Miyabi has very quickly become a major favorite of mine. But with that, I'll leave it there. I hope you all enjoyed this video. If you did, feel free to like and subscribe. Leave a comment on your thoughts. I hope you all had a great day, and goodbye.